Tonight, a special KPIX presentation, Crack, Fighting Back, a 1-hour town hall meeting. Now, here's Wendy Takuda.
This is what it is all about, $1 billion addiction and $1 billion battle to fight it. In the Bay Area alone, more than $100,000 changes hands every hour to buy pure cocaine. And the problem is everywhere. Around the Bay, there are several major areas of crack trade, but its use is exploding in communities throughout the Bay Area, from cities to suburbs. Joining us tonight is Barbara Rogers of Eyewitness News, along with some of the hundreds of people who are fighting back against crack. In our studio, we have politicians, police officers, doctors, ministers, grandmothers, foster parents, just to name a few. And the bottom line is that it is everyone's problem, and we mean everyone. Barbara.
Wendy, that's right. It is everybody's problem. But I'll bet you if you ask most of the people in our audience whose problem it is, they would say it's probably an inner-city black problem. With me here is Dan Offio from the Drug Enforcement Administration. Dan, give me some idea. Who is using crack? Who's buying all this crack and who's using it?
Well, I think there's a severe misconception on the part of most people in this country that this is definitely a black problem. And that is a severe misconception. This is a problem that basically is being laid at the feet of the black community, but it is a problem that everyone in this country has a responsibility to live up to in terms of fighting it. There is no segment of society in this country that is not affected by the crack trade. It's invaded every segment of our society. It's cut across every socioeconomic background, and it's in every state in the country. It's my feeling, and as I've heard some of the people talk this evening, that if we continue to point fingers in this fight, and especially point fingers at the black community, we're going to lose the fight. It's definitely saturated that community. There definitely is a good amount of violence going on there, but we can't point the finger there. The finger has to be pointed at all of us because we're all responsible. Another
person who knows about that is Daryl Inaba, who's sitting right next to you. Daryl, tell me, you told me the other day that there are some trends now where you're seeing it going into new communities.
That's right, Barbara, but before we start that, the trend has been there since the 1970s. So crack is everywhere, and it's affected every community, and we acknowledge that. But where we're seeing the most rapid spread of crack cocaine is in the ethnic minorities of color. We've seen it spread rampant through the black community very quickly in the last few years. At our clinic now, we're seeing it the #1 drug in the Asians we treat. It's become the #1 Asian drug of abuse in our city. We're seeing it spread into the Latino culture. We're seeing it spread amongst much younger. They're kids getting into it by crime first, and then being into the mix, they start using. So we see it younger use of it. We see more women of childbearing age using it, and we see it spreading into these ethnic minorities of color. In terms of crack itself, there's been some trends that way too. Crack has become more booyah, as what they call in the mix. It's become mixed with all kinds of other stuff. Some speed is put in it, some Alka-Seltzer put in, some Orbase. They're making cheaper and cheaper forms of crack to sell it out to larger populations, primarily at a younger population because it's cheaper.
Okay, thanks a lot. Wendy?
Lieutenant Jim Molinari, San Francisco Police Department. I want just a little bit of background, Lieutenant, if you can tell me, how does crack differ from regular cocaine?
Well, the primary difference, Wendy, is that the powdered cocaine is processed in the kitchen relatively easily, and what it does is it removes the impurities, and it becomes somewhere between 60 and 90% pure, so that each individual dosage is increased.
And it's more powerful then?
Exactly.
Is it cheaper?
It's definitely cheaper, and it's much more dangerous than the powdered form.
Right, sitting right behind you, I wanted to talk to Don Sutton. Don, you're a recovering addict. You've used it. Why is it so powerful? What is it about it?
You know, I think that, you know, with me, it was like the addicting quality of the drug, the fact that the drug attacks the pleasure centers of the brain, and the fact that it takes away all the things that you would normally want to do for pleasure. It takes that away from you, and what you want to do is use the drug to feel things that you can't really feel.
Well, what would happen to you when you would use it, for example?
I would continue to want to use. I mean, one of the things that this particular drug does is that, you know, once you start using it, you can't stop.
And what did it do to your life?
Devastated it. It cost me a lot. Financially, cost me a lot. Spiritually, cost me a lot. Family-wise, but I'm happy to say that due to the help of some people that actually love me and the help of God, I was able to turn my life around. And to any other people that are here that might be using it, might be thinking about using that, this drug is a deadly drug, and that there is help. And
we're going to want to talk about that more later. But I want to ask you first, Can a person get hooked just if they just use it one time?
Sure. We know of people now and working in the field and talking to people on a daily basis. We know people that go to parties on Saturday night. And one thing about this drug, we know people that never use marijuana, that never drank alcohol, and may go to a party and take a hit off the pipe, and on Monday morning, they're smoking like they might have been smoking for a year. So that's how addicted this particular drug is. I know people in my people that I know personally that never use any of those other drugs, but begin to use crack cocaine.
Barbara.
Now, there has been, of course, in the past week, a lot of talk about crack and drug abuse because the president came out with his speech. But over a year ago, this man right here, Reverend Cecil Williams from Glide Memorial Church, why don't you stand up, Cecil, recognized that this was a problem, and you started a conference, a national conference, to shed some national spotlight on this problem. Why was it you knew about it before the president did? And why is it that, what kinds of things were you seeing that he wasn't seeing back then?
Well, 2 years ago, Barbara, there were so many people as I got around on the streets and tried to keep my ear to the earth to try to feel what people are feeling. So many people kept saying to me, man, I'm in need, I've lost my family, I'm suffering severely. And what I discovered is that they want crack cocaine. And they said, we don't have any place to go. Well, I checked around, and there was really no place but the Haight-Ashbury Free Clinic. And I said, we got to do something about this. Well, some of them said to me, we'll come to your church, man, which a lot of them do. So we began to open up possibilities there. But the important thing is that people were shot to the curb. That's the term that's used in the mix. Shot to the curb. People were not only shot to, they were wiped out, lost everything. What do you do with people who have lost everything? You try to discover what it is that they need to know about themselves so they can go on and pull things off for themselves. And then we decided on doing a national conference because I discovered, like the people here tonight, that everybody is into it. You can't avoid it every place you look. Crack cocaine and drugs are available and in your neighborhood and community. So we created a national thrust this April, and what we've been able to do, we have 22 cities now, we have community after community. We have 6 regions in America. And what we're trying to do is organize on a comprehensive level where people from all walks of life can work together, because it's not going to be done by one group.
Okay, but there are some other groups that are working too. Thank you, Cecil.
Yeah.
And this is one man right here, Gary Brady. Why don't you stand up? You did some fighting of your own sort of on an individual basis, didn't you? You got things started in your neighborhood. Tell me about what happened.
Well, there was obvious drug activity on my block, and like any stupid fool, I thought I'd call the police, and then I found out that they weren't there.
Oh.
And then...
we got some police who will answer that a little bit.
But they were there, but they're bad. I just was operating under a whole group of rules that didn't exist. Thinking that
now
I
here
could
you are, a nice
ask for
middle-class
help.
white person. You said, if I call the police, they're going to come and get these people out of my neighborhood,
That's
right? And they didn't. So what did you do?
So I learned that they didn't, and it was just for me. The dopers are still, they're right down the block from me.
But did you run them out?
Well, I ran out the one that was right next door to me, and I did it with the help of some of my neighbors that are here tonight. And what we did is, through the captain of the Ingleside Police Station, who is a firm believer in community support, he said, start a block club. So I said, how do we do that? And he said, well, call this person, Jody Reed of OMI, and we called her and started a block club. And then the neighbors started to talk about the problems on the block. And slowly and fearfully, we reached the decision that there was only one way to get rid of this house, and that was to sue the owner. And we sued the owner, and
it worked.
It works.
Okay, thanks a lot. That's a hopeful story. Now, President Bush President Bush's war on drugs will cost this country nearly $8 billion. While he says it involves no new taxes, others disagree. So the question is, are you willing to pay higher taxes to fight this war on drugs? We'd like to know what you think about this. Throughout this hour, we'll be taking your calls on our Channel 5 phone poll. The number to call is 415-478-5002. If you want to vote yes, say so when you hear that choice. Or if you want to vote no, say no after you hear the word no. The number once again is 415-478-5002. The phone lines are open, and we'll be right back with Crack Fighting Back in just a minute.
This KPIX special presentation is brought to you by
having a live town hall meeting tonight talking about crack and how it has impacted people here in the Bay Area. I have a person here who lived with it firsthand. Denise, tell us what happened to you in your neighborhood.
Well, it started off in June when my husband and I were looking around the neighborhood and found that we couldn't afford to buy a house in an area we once lived in. So we moved to West Pittsburgh, which is unincorporated. It's not part of the town of Pittsburgh.
And right down the street from you
was a house that was dealing in drugs.
And how did that impact your life? What would happen?
Well, what started was I was crossing the street to meet some of my new neighbors, and fortunately there was a neighbor on each corner at that time in their front yards, and there was a drug deal that had just taken place, and this guy sped out of the driveway, and he deliberately tried to run my baby and myself down, all in good fun, he said. The neighbors saw this, and I was not aware of the fact for months they'd had a problem beginning to grow there, and it was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. So what the neighborhood finally got together was we started lighting up the streets. Whenever we saw people coming and going from the house, we would write down their license plate numbers and videotape them, which was very intimidating to them. And this was over the 4th of July weekend. And after a period of time, our children started writing signs and making signs and chanting, "No more drugs, no more drugs," every time anybody drove down that street.
Are they still there, though?
Most all of them. There was like over 40 people, including 10 children. Almost all of them have moved out except for 4 people.
Barbara? Well, just to give you some idea of how early it is that young people get involved with drugs. Tanya, stand up. Tanya was telling me earlier that you started dealing drugs when you were how old?
I was 11 when I officially began, and it wasn't officially, it was my way of making a statement, because I'm from the South Bronx, and it was my way of telling all the other people out there, you can't mess with me. I have my own thing, I'm running stuff, I'm going to make my money, and I'm not going to be a crackhead.
So you're telling me you had no choice but to deal drugs?
Well, not only that, it was really influenced by the people I associated with, and it was my means of survival on the streets, It's not that easy to be from the streets of the South Bronx and be completely clean, because it's influenced everywhere, family life, school, no matter where you go, it's drugs. And so what I was doing was trying to be on top of the situation by selling the product instead of consuming it.
Did you ever think you were doing something wrong or that you could have gotten killed?
Oh, most definitely, but the money that's involved is phenomenal. So that completely took over any fear I had, because for the moment I was living life how was the best way that I knew.
So then you're telling us this is going to be tough to fight. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly, especially when you have a role model as the president who's bringing in the drugs. You have these black drug dealers on the street, not even black because a lot of drug dealers tend to be from any nationality, but what happens is they usually don't have the money that they do. They start off with, and they see this lifestyle that they want to live, and because drugs, once you get involved with the drug thing, the money is so quick and so fast, you completely get caught up, and you don't think of morals and scruples.
Stopped.
Yes, I have.
Good for you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Wendy.
I have a group of people here who are a real clear illustration of how crack can affect the family. A group of grandmothers, in fact, who are taking care. Well, you get up here and you tell your story here. Doctor?
My name is Lenora Poe, and I'm from the Oakland area, and I have with me tonight a group of grandmothers who are providing primary care for their grandchildren. Grandmothers, grandfathers.
Grandfathers.
And thank you. What we are finding out with our group is that the grandparents are really here to let us know how impacting this substance has been on their family.
What is happening maybe we should let one of the grandmothers talk. What is happening? Who are you taking care of, first of all?
I'm taking care of a grandson. I'm the paternal grandmother of a child that was, mother was addicted to cocaine, and she simply had the baby, and she left the baby at the hospital. And I came in as a grandparent and took the baby, and I've had the baby with me ever since. And he's development delayed due to her use of cocaine.
And how did you react to all of that?
I felt, at first I felt like I didn't want this responsibility because both of my children are grown. And I'm saying, why me? Why do I have to go through this? But as time went on, then I began to see that it was more grandparents that had stepped forward to help with their grandchildren, and now I have a support group that I can turn to.
Ruby, how many grandchildren are you taking care of right now?
I have 4. And their parents on crack cocaine. And it's rough.
And do you see any hope for getting those parents off crack?
No. None, whatever.
I mean,
I have a 14-month-old baby to a 19-year-old.
And do you have full custody of them? Do they live at your house? Or?
They live at my house.
And do they ever see their parents?
Yes, I make sure they see their parents.
Mm-hmm. Do their parents care that they see them, or what is their life like at this point?
Rough.
Mm-hmm. Any advice for any other grandmothers in your position?
I hope nobody have to go through this. I really, whatever I could do that no other parents have to go through this.
You're taking care of how many grandchildren?
One. And matter of fact, I'm a great-grandmother, and he's 21 months.
And that child's parent is addicted?
Yes, but the saddest part about it is that she's going to have another child, and that's what bothers me is I think something needs to be done about these women that's still having babies. Because how many children can we take care of? How many children is going to be out there affected? And
does she seem at all aware of the impact that she's had?
No, and this poor kid, somehow, I don't know where he picked it up. He keeps calling her name. He says, Monica, Monica, and he's only 21 months, and he hasn't been with her about a month, I think, when he was only 3 months old.
Okay,
So apparently.
Many stories to tell tonight. Barbara?
Yes, I have another one here, Wendy. This is 16-year-old Monica. Now, you told me you started using drugs when you were how old?
8.
8 years old. Were there any messages out there that said to you that this was not a good thing to do? And if so, why didn't any of those messages deter you from using drugs?
Well, because I grew up with it. My father was a drug dealer, and, you know, it's like that's how I had to fit into my family. If I didn't use or I didn't deal, they wouldn't let me stay in my home, you know, or I'd get abused for it.
Are there a lot of kids like you that you know of?
Yeah, there's a lot of us, you know. It's like you know, it's my generation, you know, it's a way to fit in.
Is there a reason that so many of you feel you have to take drugs to fit in?
Yeah, for me, it's like I didn't get love from my family. I didn't get love from anybody, you know. It's like, you know, people treated me like an outcast because, you know, they so-called thought I did drugs even before I did, and they just, like, really isolated me, you know, and said, well, you're not worth, you know, they didn't really say it, but they kind of said, you're not worth anything, so we ain't going to have you around. And it was, like, really hard for me because, you know, I'm a 10-year-old, 8-year-old kid, you know, growing up, you know, being told that I'm worthless. Just
Where'd you get the drugs at 8?
My parents.
Gave them to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Monica. You are in treatment now?
Yes, I am.
Recovering?
Yes.
Good luck. Okay, Wendy.
We're going to take a break right now, and we'll be right back.
Black community, I don't think it's a thing to fit in. I think it's a way to escape. A lot of times when they look around, they see bleak surroundings, and they need an outlet to escape, and the drugs are right there in their face. I mean, the impact is great.
Tell us a little bit about where you live and what it's like in your neighborhood, what you see.
Right now, I see a lot of confusion. I see a lot of people who are disturbed. I see a lot of people who need to be educated.
Where do you live?
I live in Oakland.
And some specifics. I mean, what kind of specific things do you see that indicate to you that people are, as you say, confused?
I see a lot of people who run around and they do drugs, and they really don't have a reason to do them.
But there's nothing else?
There's nothing else to do. It's right there. I mean, what else can they do? They can't get, I mean, if they go out of their neighborhood, they're being looked at. A lot of times, you see a young black man, if I have on a hat and some sneakers, I'm a drug dealer. So I'm stuck in my neighborhood. And I see this man have an outlet, he has a way to escape, so why don't I try it?
You came with a group of other people. Any of you guys had something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah. Basically, it's frustration and sense of hopelessness. And we basically have lack of activities. And like he said, in our community, it's not really anything to do. And drugs are always...
Like no after-school activities or what kinds of things?
No kind of activities. So therefore, and people really don't make us feel good, and we really don't feel part of the system. So therefore, we have a lack of self-esteem, and dope is a way to make us feel like, you know, that we have some sort of esteem inside.
Is there a value system that actually gives people respect who deal drugs and who climb up on that ladder?
Well, if you make a lot of money, that's the value system.
I see.
Basically money, because just face it, you know, this system is a money system. America is based on money. Power is based on money.
Barbara?
Now, Calvin, you are 23 years old. You said you gave up crack 4 years ago. You've been clean for 4 years.
Right.
What was it that gave you the strength to get out?
My grandmother, really. And an auntie had got into recovery, and I looked at her, and before she got off crack, she was like really bad. And when I saw her doing it, and my grandmother kept getting on me, just as those grandmothers were like, go, you need to get yourself some help. I went for it, with the help of her and the help of God, and with that support behind me. It was just my auntie, And growing up for me, just like everybody else, it's like I started using drugs at 12. Before that, in '76, it was like all around me. That's all my parents did with drugs and alcohol.
So you feel there's no escape? Is that what you're saying, that you feel you have no option but to use drugs?
At the time, at the time, it was like there was nothing else to do. It was like pinball machines and playing games just wasn't doing it. I wasn't included in, the things that everybody else was doing. So, I wanted to be a part of. I wanted to be cool,
And doing drugs is being cool.
Doing drugs was being cool.
But now you know it isn't.
Right. I mean, it's like at one point the dealers appealed to me. They were driving around in nice cars. They were having the fine ladies. It was like that appeals to, the kids growing up. So,
is there anything anybody could have said to you at that point that would have kept you from doing drugs?
I knew everything. Nobody could tell me anything. It's like I was making money. You can't tell me that what you're talking about, going and get a $5 hour job. You're kidding. When I'm making like hundreds of dollars a day, and smoking and feeling good and having people around me and driving cars and, having all this going on, nobody could tell me anything.
But you crashed.
I crashed. It got real bad. It's like people were like dying around me. I was like crawling all over floors, looking out of windows, paranoid. It's like that's what crack was doing. If it wasn't for my grandmother constantly coming and saying, you need to get off this stuff. And being in recovery, it's my sister's on crack. She just had 2 babies, 8 months apart. And my nephew just went through a heart surgery, and my niece came out. I mean, we didn't think both of them would make it, So it's like seeing crack down. I mean, it's like my family is feeling it. My grandmother's taking care of 2 of her great-grandkids again. She took care of my sister and I because my mother was a cocaine alcoholic, addict, whatever, and she died of it also.
Well, maybe you can help her because you've managed to stay off for 4 years. That's good for you. Thanks a lot, Calvin.
Frances, you're dying to add something to that.
Yes, I am. I, too, did crack cocaine for 8 years, and it really destroyed my life. And I would like to say there's always a pretty picture painted, but we never see the end result of it. And the end result of it is total destruction, but there is an answer, and the answer is Jesus Christ.
You've been dying to talk all night.
Well, I'm Reginald Curry from Oakland Tech. I was president of BSU last year. But up at Oakland Tech a few years ago, you guys probably heard we were called homicide high, killer high, for a lot of killings around the school and things. And we still have drug dealers, but now the drug dealers going to school. And unlike LA and New York, in some parts, we don't have gang violence. It's just a basic money situation. We see that the man, as in the president, the white man, Bush, is running this money scam, so we gonna run a money scam better than him.
Money seems to be a continuing theme tonight, huh?
Money is just the whole thing. Money has become the artificial god of a lot of people, of a lot of lives, and let's face it, money is God nowadays.
Barbara?
This is Dolores Black, and Dolores, you're a foster mother who is taking care of some of those crack babies. What made you decide to do this?
There was a need in our county. I'm from San Mateo County, and I have 4 other foster mothers here with me tonight. And we're in a program called the MFI program, the Medically Fragile Infant Program. About 4 years ago, which crack was not into so much, or people weren't knowing, with our insistence, when we were getting these babies in the care, we were telling the medical profession that something's wrong with these kids. They're jerking, they're crying. And with our insistence, the medical profession started looking and tox screening these babies and finding out that they were being born addicted. And with that, you need a specialized home, a specialized foster mother. And so our county started this, and we take care of these babies. We take care of these drug babies that come addicted to us. any place from 1 day old to 4 days old.
Well, good for you. We're going to have to take a break now. We're almost done with time, but stay right here with me. Okay. We want to know whether you are willing to pay for this war on drugs. That's the question on our Channel 5 phone poll. You can vote by calling us at 415-478-4002. If you want to vote yes, say so when you hear that choice, or if you want to vote no, say no after you hear the word no on the phone. That's 415-478-5002, and we will be right back. Thank you.
We're live at a town hall meeting talking about how the Bay Area is dealing with the crack epidemic. Max, you wanted to say something. You're here with a group of paramedics.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that the paramedics and EMTs in the Bay Area aren't only dealing and treating the people who are using the drug, but they're also treating and dealing with the people who are the victims of the violence.
And you've seen an increase in that?
A tremendous influx, not just with the war on the turf, et cetera, and the war between the users, but the war of the victims with drugs, with robberies, strong-arm robberies, and the threat and violence against the firemen and paramedics who respond into those scenes.
It's a dangerous situation. Getting on to some solutions here, you had something you wanted to say.
I work at San Francisco General.
Can you
I'm a
stand
nurse.
up?
Okay, I'm a nurse and I work in the OBGYN unit. And right now we're seeing a lot of women coming in, they're pregnant, and about half of our population of the pregnant women who come in are addicted to either cocaine or heroin.
And what solution have you come
Well, what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to get some drug abuse counselors within the whole hospital, but we don't have any money, and I heard that everyone is voting, so please, we need some money. It's about time that we started spending some money on this problem, and the whole city's got to get together, I mean, all over the world. I mean, really.
You're referring to our phone poll that we're having tonight. Are you willing to spend more money to solve this problem?
Yes, we have to spend more money because that's the only way. We're trying to get drug abuse counselors in the hospital to work with our patients. The nurses are trying to get more educated on addiction as a whole.
But you need the money.
Yeah, we need something to start happening, and we can't do anything.
Okay. Barbara?
Wendy, this is a man whose face is probably very familiar to lots of people. He's actor, singer, dancer Ben Vereen, and you have been working for several years on some solutions. Tell me a little bit about your organization and what it does.
Well, Barbara, first of all, I want to thank the Lord for this gathering tonight. This is the beginning of the solution right here. See, it's about the community caring about the community. It's about us hooking up together and working together as a unit. And I hope that President Bush is watching this tonight, because then he'll get an idea that we got to stop sending missiles and monies over to other countries and start spending them right here in our communities. I organized an organization called Celebrities for a Drug-Free America because I looked on the screen one day after going through my own addiction and my own rehabilitation, realizing that the messages that the entertainment industry was sending out was sending off double messages. We get on the air, we sit our kids in front of TV sets, they see the cocaine dealers and big cars and fancy houses, then they get busted. And then the kid goes, well, that guy's stupid, man. When I get my chance, I'm going to do it this way. So I decided to put the celebrities together to say to get a positive profile, come into the community. Don't be a billboard. Don't sit on TV talking about just say no to drugs or be a billboard, but get down into the elbow grease of the thing. So I'm here in San Francisco along with the ministers and the Committee for Community Healing, and we decided we're going to put on a rally on the 25th at 5:30 in front of the mayor's office, and not just a rally to be rallying, but a rally to bring the community together to work as a unit. You see, we all got to start pulling in the same direction. It's not about you over there or you, because all of us are doing it. But we got to do it together, and then our voice becomes very, very, very strong.
You had an idea for a solution.
Yes, I wanted to agree that, yes, we do have to go into our pockets and spend more money. All of these people have excellent ideas on how to attack the problem of drug addiction. But when we talk about increased taxes, I say yes to increased taxes, but not mine, not to these grandparents. They're already paying the price. The addicts, I'm talking about the corporations and the pharmaceutical corporations that are making the money, sending the type of chemicals that are needed to go down to South America to mass produce the cocaine that is being sent up in here. So when I'm talking about taxes, yeah, my taxes should go to fighting this problem. My taxes already go to a military budget that's over $300 billion in this country. And I think if we could cut a third of the military budget, there you got $100 billion to afford on a local war that is killing our people right here.
Let's let Sweet Thing say something.
My name is Sweet Thing Barnett. I am a high school student at Far West High School.
And your idea for a solution?
My idea for a solution is we need to go to the children and we need to build self-esteem in these people. We need to promote.
How do you do that?
We need to promote role models that where the basis for being a role model is not money, not how much money you make.
What should it be?
It should be people who have a sense of value, who know what's right and wrong. A lot of the children that I see out there, they don't know which direction to go. The families are broken down. We need to get the families back together, and we need to show these people a way to go.
Family
they don't
keeps
know.
coming up. You are dying to say something.
Yeah. I hope George Bush and Bill Bennett stay up this late because they need to hear this. All they got to do is take that $8 billion that they're ready to lock people up with, okay, and guarantee some kids that are in elementary school now a college education. Guarantee it. Okay? These kids got to have something to look at. They've got to see a light at the end of the tunnel. Okay? We got a volunteer organization here with no paid staff, and we took 32 kids right now. We got in colleges all over this country with no money, with nickels and dimes. Okay, don't tell me.
Where'd you get it, through donations?
Donations. No government money. All private money. Some of it mine. Okay? So all they got to do is do the right thing with the $8 billion and quit talking about, in other words, we taking drug dealers and drug users and sending them to college, and they're taking them and sending them to jail. Now, who's going to win in the end?
Thanks, Wolf.
Well, while we're on the subject of money, we want to know whether you're willing to pay for this war on drugs. That's the question on our Channel 5 phone poll. You can vote by calling us at 4.
Some of the children who are ravaged by the problems of the inner city, we're providing recreational opportunities for kids so they don't have to walk out in the streets and deal with the drug problem.
So they have some other alternatives.
Yeah, I mean, what we really have is we have institutions, social and health institutions are about 25 years out of date. We're not dealing with the consumer at the level of consumer needs, so we're simply trying to first make sure that government does what it can, and Bush is not going to give us much help. But to the degree that we can turn our energies towards helping these children and helping their families, we're doing it, and it's beginning to make a difference. We're beginning to make winners in the minds of the people who work for government, who provide services, and I think that's the significant thing.
Well, we're talking about solutions now. Barbara, you've got someone over there who wants to say something.
I certainly have, Wendy. This woman, Molly Wetzel from the Francisco Street Neighbors Association or Neighborhood Association, did some fighting back. You won, didn't you? Tell me what happened in your neighborhood.
Yes, we did won. After 9 months working with the police, the property owner, and every other agency within the city and getting no action, we sued the property owner in small claims court, 18 of us from 3 years old to 65, for creating a public nuisance, allowing a crack house to operate in our neighborhood, and we won.
You got the crack dealers out of your neighborhood.
Within 6 weeks of filing that lawsuit, the crack house is gone, and that was $6.
And is it going to stay out?
It's out.
Good.
And we're working with community groups throughout the Bay Area. In fact, we're working with them nationally now to take this nonviolent, non-vigilante tactic across the nation.
I think she deserves a round of applause for getting them out of her neighborhood.
You had a solution you wanted to talk about?
Well, yes. I'm Louise Vaughn, and I'm with one of the first grandparent support group that got started in the country, I believe, from San Francisco General Hospital with Sue Troopin,
And
Lorian.
what are you doing that's helping?
Well, we have a support group with the grandmothers. There are a couple of them here tonight. The others are at home taking care of the children. And we are trying to support each other because it has really impacted on grandmothers and great-grandmothers' lives. And some of the children are so damaged because many children are living in crack houses or were living in crack houses before they came to their relatives.
Well, congratulations for you for making that solution work.
And we have the solution. Part of the solution is going to be, the first thing, you're going to have to work with the community like Reverend Cecil William and Ben Beran are doing. You're going to have, it's not going to work. Bennett and Bush can put all the money into what they want, but if they don't work with the people in the community, it's not going to solve the problem.
Well, thanks, Louise.
Barbara? Okay, I have with me now, Wendy, three people who are, you live in a public housing project, and the two of you live near that housing project. All of you joined together to get rid of crack. Tell me what you did, Buck.
Well, we decided that in organizing to fight crack, we wanted to empower the people in the neighborhood to attack some of the root causes. So we're not just moving on the crack dealers, we're moving on the housing authority.
How are you doing it, though? What are you doing?
Well, we petitioned, we went door to door, and we threatened to go to City Hall and demonstrate and picket until we got our share of city resources. So far, the housing authority has repaired all of the vacant units in the Holly Court Public Housing Project, has made repairs on the 25 units where tenants threatened to go to City Hall if they didn't get the repairs. Frankly, we haven't pushed crack out of the neighborhood, and we think it's going to be a long-term problem.
I think the important thing is that the community has to accept the problem and stop pushing it away.
Aren't you scared, though? I mean, let's face it. You can get killed doing this. People have gotten killed. How do you get past the fear?
Well, I think it's like a gentleman over here was saying earlier. They need to be wanted. They need a program. They need to have something for them. They need to be being treated as second-class citizens. So I don't really think about the problem as worrying about drug dealers. You have to have something for them. And that's what we're trying to do. Incorporate it into the mainstream.
Is it making it better in your housing project?
Little better. But I think that if you can't save the ones that's already on crack, try to at least save the kids that's not on it.
That's a good thing. Oh, we're going to take a break right now, and we will be right back. Thank you.
Birdseed, a lot of the girls wear in stockings because it has the natural bounce.
So mark your TD calendar.
We're having a live town meeting talking about how to deal with the problem of crack. Doctor?
I'm Dr. Rick Fulroth. I'm the director of the Highland Hospital Nursery. I would like to say that recently Duke Majan cut the family planning funds. Why is that critically important? We deliver over 400 crack babies a year at Highland Hospital in the nursery. Those babies are being affected by cigarette smoke, syphilis, herpes. They're being infected by the lack of intake of food by their parents and the lack of prenatal care. If Duke Majan would see to it to reinstate the family planning funds, we feel that those babies who are being exposed to crack cocaine will have a better chance of having a normal life than they currently have right now.
Doctor, Minnie, you're dealing with, you have a solution too that you put into operation.
Yeah, I have a solution. I'm taking in pregnant moms, and we're dealing with
who are addicted to crack.
Who are addicted to crack.
How do you get them to stop?
We love them a lot. And we put them in a safe environment, and we feed them 3 meals a day, and we surround them with love and compassion and medical care. And we look deeper than the problem. What the way I feel about drug addiction is that it lies deeper than that. That it's a disease, and the problem is deeper than that. And we find out what that problem is, and we deal with the problem.
Barbara. Wendy, these people with me are with OMI, Neighbors in Actions. They have a solution to. Jim Mayo is the president. Jim, tell me what your group is doing.
Right now, we're engaged in preparing and have prepared a comprehensive plan to deal with prevention, education, and treatment. The significant thing that we were able to do was to, through collective consciousness and through the assistance of all of those in our organization or in our neighborhood, was to form some 25 block clubs and to kind of challenge the community, challenge public and private industry alike to participate in a meaningful effort to bring a meaningful solution to it.
Is it working?
It's working, and the people that you see here tonight are representatives of that organization.
How can you tell it's working? What kind of results are you seeing?
One of the major things that we did was to involve the large segment of society, of our community. We have, for example, our park. We had Ocean View Park, and it was surrounded with drug dealers and the like, and we were able to regain our park and create some semblance of order. We're having a family day for the second time in the year. We've had some 3,000 people last year at that. We have a publication that reaches out to some 5,000 people. We're having the mayor there on September 25th, and we're producing this comprehensive plan that I described to you.
Good for you. One of the main things then is getting people in your neighborhood involved.
Yes, it is.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay,
Right.
Wendy.
Eluhi Harris, what's your idea for a solution?
I think you really have to start talking about long-term solutions. And people are in a reactionary society are crisis-oriented. We're really going to have to start talking about education, dealing with children, and trying to prevent the problem. We seem to don't have the money to deal with the back end of the problem. The rehabilitation is obviously expensive. Supply and demand phenomena, we've got to obviously try to cut the demand tremendously. It's the only thing we can do.
Dorian, solution.
Solution. There are some grandparents who do not report the parents that are on drugs, and those grandparents are supporting those children with their funds while the parents receive AFDC. Further, politicians need to get a mountaintop experience like the Reverend Cecil Williams, and then quit politicking and taking that money that is put into the community, because there is money there, there are resources,
So
and you have
families need to deal with
politicians working in different directions in different communities.
Thanks, Dorian. Barbara?
Okay, now these are all people who are with me who are involved in treatment, and they're saying we haven't gotten enough about treatment tonight. Tell me, what is it you wanted to say about treatment?
First of all, I work for Baby Hunters Point Community Foundation, and we have a crack cocaine program where we use acupuncture. And recently we started detoxing cocaine babies using acupressure with very specific points, and having tremendous success. And I think people need to understand that there are ways to deal with physical, emotional, and spiritual issues, and alternative ways. And some of those ways are acupuncture. It's very inexpensive, and it's extremely effective.
Okay, thank you. And Susan, you're from Thunder Road, which is a treatment program for youth.
Right. Thunder Road Hospital is, a lot of talk has been going on here tonight about the family. Thunder Road Hospital treats the entire family, which is very important. You cannot take a teenager into treatment without bringing the whole family in. It's possible to pull a family together. We have that treatment that's available, and it works. And crack is on the rise, and we see younger and younger kids coming in. We're talking 12-year-olds.
But you're getting them off.
We're getting them off, and we're getting the families back together.
And one more person here about treatment. You're from the Glide Memorial Church program.
Right. My name is Judge Cantrell. I'm a peer counselor in the Crisis Center with the Facts on Crack program. I see anywhere from 25 to 30 people a day through the Crisis Center. These are people that are shot to the curb. Now, I was at a forum where a judge admitted it costs more to keep a person in prison than to give them a scholarship to go to school.
But
like
tell me
the man
now
was saying,
specifically, because we're running out of time.
treatment-wise, what we need treatment programs, viable ones. You can't send a person, you know, back into the same setting and expect them to stay off of the drug. Okay? I see people, only resource I have is for shelters, whatever kind I can put them in, and encourage them to come to our meetings.
So
but they're fighting
the point is
a
you
real
need
vicious
more
cycle.
resources for treatment. All of you agree on that? Yeah. Everybody agree you need more resources for treatment. Okay. All right, Wendy.
More resources, a continuing theme. Real quickly here, some solutions.
I'm Wilbur, and I'm from East Palo Alto.
Real quickly, Wilbur.
Phoenix Center. And one thing about it, I'm a recovering addict for 4 years.
What's your idea for a solution?
The thing about it is that we have to, as individuals, as a person who's been in recovery, has been in the drug thing.
Get to it, Wilbur. We got
the thing about it is that you have to make a stand and tell someone about staying clean and sober.
Mary?
Hi, I'm Mary, and I'm a nurse at Thunder Road. And
the solution?
The solution that I can see is that this needs to be looked at as a disease. It's not a moral issue, and people need to
disease.
Not be afraid to go out into the street. And
hi, everybody. If you're an addict, you need help. 12-step programs, Cocaine Anonymous, Alcoholics Anonymous. They don't cost a cent. They're addicts helping addicts.
Yeah, thank you.
We're going to take a break. We are going to be right back in just a minute, right after this break.
Throughout this program, we have been asking whether you are willing to pay higher taxes to fight this war on drugs. Now, this is not a scientific poll, but we have had some interesting results tonight. Of the 630 people who called in, 57% said yes, they would be willing to pay higher taxes. 43% said no new taxes for the war on drugs.
This problem demands more than money. No one really knows exactly how many people are addicted to crack in the Bay Area. But if you look at the low estimates, today alone in the Bay Area, at least 30 more people became addicts. Now, if you have more questions about crack or drug treatment, there is a toll-free hotline at the National Institute of Drug Abuse. That number is 1-800-662-HELP. And once again, the number is 1-800-662-HELP. Call it, please, if you need help.
The Bay Area is at its best when we take matters into our own hands to solve a problem. With the AIDS epidemic, we showed the country what happens when a community gets involved. The crack epidemic demands that same kind of grassroots involvement. Whether it's donating money or helping out with groups like the Omega Boys Club, the Bay Area can fight back against crack. It just takes all of us. Good night.
Good night.
Give us a phone number that we can all talk to and all